Hi, I'm Shane Sandham and welcome to the Boxing Coach. Now that you've mastered a solid stance and tapped into the art of footwork, the next thing is to learn how to throw a punch. In this video, I'm going to show you how to throw a jab to the head, to the body, a rear hand cross to the head and to the body. As well, I'll show you 1-2 combination, both to the head and body, which can be interpreted in an infinite amount of variations. The jab is the most important punch in boxing. It's used as your rangefinder and is a very important tool to opening your opponent's guard, setting you up for bigger, powerfuler punches. We'll discuss more advanced tactics for the jab in later videos. Perfect jab is relaxed, comes from a good guard, with no telegraph and signals, and should never really leave you exposed. A bad jab is stiff, weak, easy to spot, and will leave you exposed to a number of counter punches. To throw a jab, like anything in boxing, you need to start with a good stance. Your jab will always come from your lead hand. Begin by extending your arm out with your thumb side facing up, elbow pointing down. As you begin to reach full extension of your arm, clench your fist and rotate your wrists so that your fist is landing parallel to the floor and your knuckles are landing square onto the target. You should have a power line with your fists, wrists, elbow and shoulder. This position allows for your full body weight to be behind the shot, with your chin tucked down behind your lead shoulder. Sight looking out the tops of your eyes at your opponent. Your non-punching hand, in this instance your rear hand, should always be pinned to your cheek, protecting your chin from any rogue shots that you don't see coming from the other side. Your hand should return to your guard naturally, reversing this movement. Boxing is a sport which requires much coordination. Very rarely will you do any movement in boxing that doesn't require multiple parts of your body to come together at the same time. In the very early stages of training, or even if you're an experienced boxer but find that you're struggling to get your shots off without smothering your range against your opponent, I'd really recommend that you practice throwing the jab in isolation from the rest of your body. Once you've mastered this movement, then you can think about putting the jab in with other skills that you've developed. Take your time and be humble. Your boxing will benefit hugely. A straight rear hand punch, often referred to as a cross, is the second most used punch in boxing, as it flows so nicely after throwing that jab. When thrown properly, it's fast, powerful, and is the main culprit for knockouts in the ring. However, when they're thrown badly, they're weak, leave you off balance, and completely exposed to counter punches from your opponent. A straight rear hand punch is still regarded as a basic skill in boxing. However, it's with these movements that we begin to open the doors and set the foundations for other much more advanced punches in boxing. It's with this punch that we begin to see how important a good stance is. Without a good stance, you're not going to be able to get full rotation with your hips. Remember, all good punching comes from the hips. Stage 1 begins with your stance. You need to have a good stance in order to throw this punch. Begin by driving down in your legs and rotating so that your hip bones become parallel. If you can't get your hip bones parallel, it's usually because your back foot is too far back. You need to have it sitting underneath your hips. Your foot is pointing out too far at the wrong angle, or your feet are too linear with your back leg being directly behind your front leg, not allowing you to get that parallel. Take this nice and slowly to begin with, and then once you've got this movement nailed, you can then put it in with speed. Stage 2 is the punch. This movement is very similar to the jab. You want to begin by extending your arm with your radial, that's the thumb side of your wrist, pointing up, elbow facing down. As you begin to reach full extension of the arm, twist and rotate your fists, clenching your fists so that the fist is parallel to the floor, knuckles landing square on the target. You've got that power line, fists, wrists, elbow, shoulder, chin tucked in behind the rear shoulder here, sight looking over the tops of your eyes, and your non-punching hand, this instance our lead hand, is pinned to our chin, protecting our cheek from any rogue shots that you don't see coming. To return the punch, you just reverse the movement in the same way. Stage 3 is putting these all together. Begin by driving down in the hips, and as you rotate and your hips begin to reach full rotation, you then extend the rear hand out for that shot. Practice this coordination slowly once again, and then once you've got that nailed, you can put some speed in. It's very important to make sure you stay balanced. Ensure that your weight stays nice and central, so you don't leave yourself exposed to any counters, and also ensuring that you can get that full weight and power behind your punch. If you find you're struggling with the rear hand shot, please watch my video on the most common mistakes with the cross and how you can correct them. Now that you can throw a jab to the head and a cross to the head, you can put these together in a combination. The most commonly used combination of punches is a straight 1-2. 1 being the jab, 2 being the cross. Straight 1-2 to the head is a perfect combination to begin with, as it flows naturally from one another. A good jab from a good stance will set you up perfectly to execute a really good rear hand cross without showing any telegraphing signals to your opponent as to what punch is about to come next. Practice throwing the 1-2, and then as you get confident with it, practice throwing higher combinations. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on. The world's your oyster. Most important part is making sure you're keeping your balance nice and central, and you're extending every shot with good rotation and full extension. Chin always being tucked, protected by the shoulder. Non-punching hand always protecting, chin on the other side. Eyes over the tops, looking at your opponent at all times. To throw a jab to the body or a cross to the body is the exact same as throwing it to the head. However, the only difference is that you need to come down to the level that you want to punch. This has more emphasis on the importance of having a good stance, so you need to make sure you've got that nailed first. Once you're ready, in a good stance, squat down to the level of the target you want to throw, and then extend that arm out, exact same as if it was a punch to the head. Same for the rear hand, squat down, extend. You still want your fist, wrist, elbow and shoulder landing in a power line, chin tucked down behind the shoulder, protecting your wrist on the other side. When squatting in for a body punch, make sure the weight has gone down in your legs and you're not hinging forward to make that height. Squat with a nice straight back and good stance and good posture. Bam, bam. You don't want to punch down towards the target like so. As you can see, if I punch down, my chin is exposed for a counter punch. As well as that, I then do not have my power line all in a line, so any energy that's transferred into the target is going to be lost. Squat down and throw your shots. Now that you've learned straight punches to the head and to the body, and most importantly good footwork, you can start to develop an infinite number of combinations. I want you to get creative, go away and practice your combinations of punches, combined with your footwork, both to the head and to the body, and develop your own style. Here are a few combinations to get you started. 1, 2 to the head, or jab to the head, step back in, 1, 2. Jab to the head, step to the right, throw the rear hand. Jab to the head, step to the left, throw the rear hand. Jab to the head, cross to the body, jab to the head. jab to the head, step back in, cross to the body, jab to the head. 1, 2 to the head, rear to the body, rear to the head. Practice these combinations nice and slowly. Be especially mindful of each contraction and movement, ensuring that your balance is nice and central and you've got a good firm base. As you go through these different combinations, start to notice how different movements will encourage different punches. For example, a good jab will set up the rear hand nicely, and stepping off to the side, stepping into my rear leg here, sets up a really nice rear hand shot. Take each punch slow, and as you learn the technique, then you can start to focus on putting in speed. Thank you for watching. As always, if you've got any questions, please leave me a comment down below or contact me on any of my social media platforms. I'd really recommend that you watch my next video on the most common mistakes with the jab and the cross, and then moving forward from here, we'll learn how to do defences.